do the ring tray or the jewelry ballet. This is guys or girls, anybody that really wears jewelry that likes dinosaurs can easily do this. So you're gonna obviously take your tag off of your dinosaur, put him aside. And then I decided to go ahead and try this Gorilla Clear Glue. I love a lot of the Gorilla Glue products, so we'll give this one a try and see how this goes versus the E6000. And I mainly did that because I'm out of it. Now, you're gonna have your clear tray. You're gonna want to kind of figure out placement of your dinosaur. I mean, you could really do it. You could do it that way. You could do it this way. You could do it across to add some interest, and then you've got jewelry that you can put on either side. The great thing about this guy too is that rings will fit over his neck. His tail, maybe you could do something. You could actually probably even bend it a little bit if you wanted to kind of get that curl up just a little bit. And what you're gonna be doing is taking his feet and gluing them to the bottom of this tray. Now, before I do that though, I do want to go ahead and do my stickers. Now these are raised dot stickers. There's Otis in the background saying hi. And they kind of have this little wire between them. Oops, sorry. They have this little wire between them, which helps you with spacing. Now, if I would have cut mine not this way and cut them that way, I'd have an entire long strip, but I don't. So I'm just gonna eyeball these, and literally all you're going to be doing is just doing a good clean row all the way around all sides. So I'm going to, now this is the Gorilla Glue Clear, and because it is clear, I'm gonna use a pretty nice helping of it on here. And maybe, because I'm using a different product than E6000, maybe it won't have to dry all night. Now, he's got some drippage, but that's okay. And literally, we are just going to glue him down, let him sit, and then once that's dry, all you're gonna do is spray paint. You can also do a version of this using a Crafter's Square Dollar Tree dinosaur and a clear lucite tray. And here you have it, my entire family of dinosaur jewelry valets. I did it with either the plastic Dollar Tree dinosaurs or this wooden one from the Crafter's Square line, which you can also find at your local Dollar Tree store. For our side table top, we are going to take our pizza pan and remove any kind of labels or stickers, and then you're simply just going to give it a double coat of chalk paint. I used black chalk paint on both sides. Next, you're going to want to go ahead and wire your two baskets together. Now, I just stacked these right on top of each other and then just simply used that floral wire, making sure to cut it, of course, and wired them together. It was pretty simple, and I did this on 4 sides to make sure that it was good and sturdy. The next thing that I wanted to do was add some weight to this side table. So I added some of these Dollar Tree rocks into the center basket. This is going to give me a nice kind of industrial vibe that I'm going for. For the top of my table, I'm going to give it an industrial vibe with this wood grain contact paper from Dollar Tree. I used a template just using a piece of scrap paper that I had and cut the circle out to match the center of the pizza pan. In order to make sure the pizza pan was secure on top of the wastebasket side table, I went ahead and drilled some small pilot holes in the top and then wired it directly to the frame. After everything was wired together, I took that wood contact paper and simply glued it down to the top using some spray adhesive. I think this little side table is perfect. For this last project, the K-cup holder, you are going to use some E6000. And yes, my E6000 tube is on its very last leg. I am squeezing it out of the bottom and out of the top and trying to get every single last drop that I can. You're going to do this on the edges as well as on the side and the center of the plate itself. A big glob in the middle is actually going to help you out a lot with having this basket stick to this glass top. The basket does not sit completely flush on top of the candle tray. So when you're adding your glue to this, you're going to want to make sure that you have a puddle that is really going to kind of ooze up between the basket and the glass tray itself. It sounds crazy, but trust me, it works. And then also, just for extra safety, I go through and I make sure that I have lots of hot glue. In fact, as you can see, I'm running out of glue here, so I'm going to push another stick through here to get some more of my hot glue down there. And I am literally just creating blobs in the bottom there. The great thing about those blobs is that, one, they'll paint over and you'll be able to cover them really easily, but also it is going to help adhere that E6000. It's going to help it dry faster, and it's going to help keep everything together for your beautiful K-cup holder. And after a few hours, I went back to my K-cup holder basket and flipped it upside down. I added a generous amount of hot glue and E6000 to this candlestick and simply glued it on the base, getting this ready to spray paint after it sits for about 24 hours. And there you have it. My K-cup holder is complete. I gave it a good coating of white spray paint and filled it with my K-cups, and it's now sitting at my coffee bar. For review, our projects are these awesome Dollar Tree Dinosaur jewelry trays. We also did a side table using those Dollar Tree waste baskets and some Dollar Tree contact paper, as well as those rocks. And lastly, we did a K-cup holder made with Dollar Tree baskets and Dollar Tree candle stands. I have bought at Walmart or the grocery store even, and we're just going to line up 4 of them. Now, what I'm trying to do is make sure that you've got your points facing one way, and then you've got the straighter edge at the bottom. You can see here with this Dollar Tree straight edge that I have here, this black ruler, I am literally just going to line them up at the base. I'm going to make sure that they're good and flat and straight, and then I'm going to grab a marker and just simply make a line across the skewers where I want to make my cut. Now, for my houses, I'm doing 2 different sizes, so the first set is going to be taller than the second set that I'm going to do. Then you're simply going to want to take a pair of wire cutters that have a nice sharp edge like this pair here, and you're going to cut just below that black line that you made. And if you do this nice and straight, this will give you a nice edge to be able to work with when you're building the sides of your houses. Now, again, remember, when you're doing your second house, you're going to vary this up. You can certainly make them the same size if you really wanted to. That's not a problem at all. That's the great thing about these projects, is that it really is up to you. It really is your creation. You'll see that I've spray painted mine a different color when it comes down to it. But again, have fun with this. Make sure that these are even. If they're not even, go ahead and take a pair of your wire cutters and just kind of trim them up a little bit. Get them pretty close. That's certainly going to help you when you get to the gluing stage for this. And now we're ready to start gluing. So you're going to grab your wood plaque. I'm making my smaller house be tall and skinny. And so again, I'm putting a healthy amount of hot glue in the corner, and I'm literally going to put that skewer in that corner. Again, adding a little bit more hot glue, and yes, burning my finger a little bit, and then repeating and going around and doing it all over again. So you're going to do this on all 4 sides of both of your houses. And of course, I run out of glue right in the middle of doing this project. So again, putting the skewers in, getting them set up with the first initial bit of glue, and then going back and adding additional hot glue just to make sure that these are nice and sturdy. Now, don't worry about glue puddles. Don't worry about anything like that. The great thing about this project is those puddles actually make it look like you've got soldering, like if you're working with metal. So that's something that I actually like about this project, are those puddles. And again, just putting in here your last bit, making sure it's nice and straight, and then moving that aside and repeating it with your base. Now, the base that I'm using for the second house is going to be much shorter. So with this one, once again, you're going to pull out your bamboo skewers, you're going to measure them, and then you're going to crop them again and just simply repeat this process. Again, for this next part, you're going to take your straight edge and measure the distance between your bamboo skewers to start building the roof line. You're literally just going to line up 4 bamboo skewers against your straight edge and then mark the spot with your marker on where you're going to cut. And then once again, repeating the process to start cutting these right below that line. And you're going to simply start to glue these on your structure. Now, to do this, I recommend a lot of patience. And the first thing you're going to want to do is glue one of your sides together. And again, you're just going to take some of your hot glue. You're going to put a nice ball of hot glue on each one of the ends, on the sticks themselves, and make sure that you don't have any of those glue gun cobwebs that we love so much. And then simply just hold that for a little bit. Yes, it's going to be a little warm. And just let it dry. And once you've done this on all 4 sides, then you can begin building the roof line of your house. Now that I have the base of my roof line built, you can go ahead and start building the sides or the actual peak of your roofs. I went ahead and cut my bamboo skewers, and I did cut them at a bit of an angle. This is going to help you when you are wanting to get back in the camera there. This is going to help you when you are doing your gluing. This is an important step, and it will definitely make a difference. Again, you put a big generous dab of hot glue on the base. You set this little guy up in the corner, and look at that. He almost stands up there by himself. And then you repeat it on the other side, bringing your 2 points in the center together. For these, the points on the center piece, I do not shape those for a reason, and you'll see why in just a second. And now building the center piece of our roof line, you're going to take your 2 points on either side of the triangle and just lay a crossbar like so. Boom, look at that. You've got 2 great looking houses, and they're ready to paint. I took them outside in the backyard and sprayed them with my favorite metallic spray paint from Ace Hardware. And boom, this is what they look like. Check them out. Aren't they great? I love the silver metallic. They look like they're metal. I added some Dollar Tree sea glass along with some Dollar Tree candles in the center. They actually work perfectly with my painting that's here on the mantle. Now, whenever you first walk into my home, I want you to feel welcome. I want you to feel like you've stepped into a little bit of fun, a little bit of elegance, and definitely something that is very comfortable. I fill my home with a variety of antiques and newer items and just try to make it super eclectic. I wanted something that was going to kind of anchor my coffee table a little bit, and I had this tray that I picked up from Dollar General. I've had this for a couple years, and I really have been wanting to do something with it. I finally figured out what I wanted to do. I took it outside and I gave it a very simple spray paint coat of dark navy. I think this is a midnight navy or an evening navy, and it really creates a cool anchor and a cool focal point on my coffee table. I love how this looks. It's super high end and was so easy. Now for this next DIY, I'm going to take some glassware that I picked up from Dollar Tree. We're going to take a glass bowl, a plate, and 2 different size glasses and some really good adhesive. And first we got to remove all those stickers, those pesky stickers. You know how those can be. And now we are going to make our different levels or our different tiers. We're going to have a planter, and we're also going to have a candle stand here. Now I'm using a little bit of hot glue to help hold this immediately, and then also that Gorilla Glue for my long-term hold. You want to just make sure that you've got these glued down in the center. You can pick your larger or your smaller glass for your planter or your candle holder. That part is totally up to you. And again, I just repeated that with my second set as well, making sure that I have a good kind of selection there of glues with my hot glue and my Gorilla Glue. Now I just let them dry, and as you can see, they make the perfect accent to my bedroom. I love the way that these turned out. Now my next DIY, I'm going to be making a very fun pom-pom wreath, and I grabbed a bunch of packages of pom-poms from Dollar Tree. If you don't have these pom-poms and you have pom-pom makers, then you can certainly make a large selection of pom-pom makers. I did use 8 bags for this DIY, by the way, and then of course that foam wreath form from Dollar Tree. I simply just took my pom-poms and separated them into different piles by color, and then I started gluing them individually onto my wreath form. Now the kind of part that is laying flat against my work surface, imagine that being your door. So you don't have to take these pom-poms and put them all around, but of course you want to cover up as much of that wreath form as possible. Now these 8 bags of pom-poms, these worked out perfectly. So if you can get your hands on these, definitely grab 8 bags of them, and it will work perfect for this size wreath form. And after you've got the one single layer, you're just going to go through and you're going to start working on your second layer. And again, you're just going to alternate those colors. I'm just doing it in order. I've got all the different piles with the individual colors there, and I am just alternating those colors and just working my way all the way around. Now you can see I've got 3 rows here, but you do want to kind of get that inside row and then kind of squeeze in any other pom-poms that need to be fillers, and you've got the perfect wreath for your door. Now I really love this next DIY. It's super easy. I'm going to take these clips that I picked up from the Target dollar spot. I picked these back up in, October, and I've had them for quite a while. This piece of wood that I have is already painted, and it was just kind of in my scrap pile. And the Dollar Tree wallpaper sheets, by the way, is the perfect size for that scrap wood. That scrap wood, by the way, is from the Crafter Square section. Mine just happens to be painted white. Now, again, is the perfect length and width, and I am just going to wrap my piece of board much like you are wrapping a holiday present or a Christmas gift, and just crease it on the edge and wrap it around. And if you do this straight, you are going to see that you have the perfect size for your board. It is kind of crazy the way it worked out. It's almost as if Dollar Tree was doing that on purpose. Now, this set of nails and such are from Dollar Tree as well, and they had these kind of larger upholstery tacks in there that were also gold, and they kind of worked out perfectly for this clip and to hold this clip on, because you can't really glue this on. I just added it to the back, and boom, you got the cutest memo station. You could put a magnet or hang this up with some twine. Super, super versatile, and really, really love the way that this turned out. Now, this is going to be the easiest DIY possible. A piece of scrap wood, some nautical rope, some lanterns, and some hooks from Dollar Tree. The hooks did come from Hobby Lobby. Taking some Waverly antiquing wax, we're going to go ahead and stain our wood. You're going to get that into the color that you want, and then we're going to take our rope, just kind of burn off the edges, get those nice and straight. After adding your hooks onto your wood, you're going to simply add your lanterns and hang this up, and you've got the cutest kitchen light. I love the way this turned out. It was so easy to do, and it looks gorgeous at night. This next DIY definitely has a little bit of a Christmas edge to it, or vibe to it, but we're going to call it an industrial vibe. I grabbed 2 of these laser wood cut stars from Dollar Tree, and also another piece of scrap wood. This also came from Dollar Tree in the Crafter Square section. I am going to go ahead and just trim this down and get it to the right size. And then for our stars, I am going to take some of those small blocks from Crafter Square. We're going to glue one in the middle, and the blocks were a little large, so I trimmed those down to kind of create this 3D look. I glued the star to the wood, took it outside, spray painted it with this antique gold spray paint, and added some holiday lights or some string lights to it, and you've got a very cool accent lamp. Using one of these coveted drawers, that I picked up from Dollar Tree during my last haul. I absolutely love this drawer. I also saw these mini magnifying glasses that I picked up in the party section at Dollar Tree. I liked these a lot and thought that they kind of looked like feet. So I thought I would create a planter using my handy new box here. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is take that hardware off the front of it because we will be using that again. I just don't want to paint over it. So go ahead and put that somewhere safe. Put those screws somewhere safe. Put that plate somewhere safe and just set that aside until after we're done staining our box. So for the feet, or these mini magnifying glasses, what I'm going to do actually is I've got a piece of scrap foam core here, and I'm actually, because this side here has this flat surface and the smaller side, I think that would look better as a foot on the base of this versus doing something like that. So this side that has the magnifying glass, it's great because I can glue something down to that. And also I'm going to be adding glue to this now and gluing these down to my white piece of foam core there. And the reason why I'm doing that is because these are so lightweight and plastic that when I will go outside and spray paint them, I don't want them to blow away in the wind. So now that everything is dry, I just took everything outside, spray painted it. I just went for it and gave it one kind of decent coating of black spray paint and let that dry out in the sun. And it worked out fine, actually. The spray paint that I'm using does work on plastic. So again, didn't really have any issues with this. I went ahead and let that dry. And then I went back inside and used my Minwax color stain, which I again love so much. I'm almost out of this walnut color. And I just added a generous amount to my cloth and just started staining these boxes. Look how good the stain adheres to these boxes. I love how rich they look. I love the grain of the wood that really comes out, even though this is probably a pressed wood of some kind that these little crates are made out of. And then I'm literally going to stain the inside and the outside of that box because I'm going to use this box for a lot of different things. It's going to be very, very versatile. So after everything dried, I did take my hardware and just add it right back to the front. I think that hardware is so, so cute and really, really makes this just whole overall look. And then, as you can imagine, once I add those black feet back to it, it is going to be even cuter and just really have a super, super cool industrial modern kind of a feel. Now, go ahead and of course line up those holes and use those same holes again. If you want to put a little bit of glue down in those holes, you can, because this is kind of an MDF, particle board kind of a thing. You may have to do that to make sure everything stays. Now, when I did take my feet, or what my new feet are, off of the tag board, some of that tag board stuck to the bottom of it, but you know what? It's not a big deal at all, because again, this is going to be at the part of the on the bottom of the box that you're not even going to see. I'm going to go ahead and just glue all of those feet down in place, and I'm making sure that I'm kind of doing it in the exact same four corners for all four pieces. And then everything was dried and I had the cutest little plant stand. How adorable is this? I absolutely love the way that this turned out. You can add your own little message into the center there. I just added a very simple hello. And again, think about the versatility of this. You could put candles in it. You could put succulents in it. You could put a plant in it. You could display a knickknack in it. I really think that these are probably my newest favorite DIY item from Dollar Tree. My next Dollar Tree DIY is going to incorporate these new fluted bowls that I picked up during my last haul. Also, I had one of these leftover ceramic candlesticks. I'm going to go ahead and separate the two bowls and just put one aside, use that for another project later on. I'm going to take the fluted bowl and glue it down to the top of the candlestick. Just for the sake of drying time and for the sake of the DIY, I'm just going to use hot glue. You could certainly use an E6000 or something like that if you wanted this to be a holder, or a long-term hold, or a longer holder. I don't know what I was going to say. So when everything is dry, this is what it looks like, and it's almost a perfect fit. It's kind of great the way it turned out. Now I am taking a spray paint, or at least what I thought was spray paint. I thought I was using a white spray paint, but I ended up mistakenly grabbing some white enamel, which kind of gives it a texturized coating. And you'll see when it all dries, it actually turned out really kind of cool. It gave a really neat texture on everything that made it look like it was almost like a stone effect. So I'm going in, I'm kind of doing a couple different coats here and letting that dry. And then once everything was dry, check this out, is the cutest little plant stand. You could put a candle in it again. Super, super versatile. Check out how texturized that is. I really love the effect that this gave it. I love the way this looked. You could certainly add a bow or a ribbon or something around it. I thought that this was perfect as is, and I was super, super happy with the way this one turned out. An embroidery hoop and also one of these round mirrors from Dollar Tree. The embroidery hoop that I grabbed was the same exact size of the mirror. I believe it was like a 5-inch one. I'm going to take some Waverly antiquing wax and I am just going to go ahead and wax over my embroidery hoop here. I'm going to go ahead and do a fairly heavy coat and just go kind of quickly all the way around the hoop, making sure that I'm getting in between all of those cracks and crevices. You could certainly separate your hoops if you wanted to, but since we are using both of them in this particular DIY, there's no real need to do that unless you feel like you have to. I was able to go ahead and use this antiquing wax and get all the way around that hoop and also on the inside as well as the one side. Now, I did not put any of the antiquing wax on the back side of that embroidery hoop because we are going to be gluing that down. So don't worry about that. Using the glue, I'm going to actually use super glue instead of hot glue because I want to, of course, make sure that this is going to hold. So go ahead and just add some super glue going all the way around, making sure that it's as even as possible. But be sure that you're not putting this on too thick, otherwise it will kind of ooze out and leak onto your mirror, and you definitely don't want that. So I'm just kind of using the tip there and spreading out some of the glue. Now that I've got everything laid out in the, I guess, glue formation that I want, I'm going to go ahead and take my mirror and just glue this down to the back of the embroidery hoop. You can remove those foot pads on the back of those mirrors if you want, but I'm actually leaving them because I'm thinking it's going to help kind of keep it cushioned up against the wall itself. Now I'm taking some black electrical tape and I'm just kind of reinforcing what I've got with the mirror there. Not only is the tape going to help kind of give this a little bit more finished look, but the tape is also going to help hold this very, very tightly against that embroidery hoop. So once you've got that all done, I'm just going to take a piece of twine and I am going to super glue that on the back as well. And then I'm going to cover that up with some of my tape. So when you're all done, you're going to have a very cute mirror that looks like this here. And I love how simple and beautiful this is. I think that you can decorate your space in a lot of different ways with this. This would be perfect for a sewing room, definitely kind of a farmhouse feel. I think it would even be really cute with a little bow around the top. My next DIY is another one that's super, super easy. We're going to take one of these cutting board signs from Dollar Tree and also 4 of the jingle blocks. I'm going to go ahead and remove this twine. I'm going to put this aside, though, because I am going to use this later on. And we are going to very simply and extremely easily take 4 of those jingle blocks, and we are going to glue these onto the back of our cutting board there. Now, you could really use either side of the cutting board for this because you are going to end up painting both sides. I actually ended up sanding the front of my cutting board, and I did that with my mouse sander. I forgot to film that part, so you can sand it yourself, and then you'll be able to get a nice kind of nice clean coat of paint there. So after I've got all 4 of my jingle block pieces glued in place, then we are going to start painting. Now for my paint, I'm just going to be using black It is the ink from Waverly. Also, I did add just a little bit of my brown antiquing wax into this. I was thinking that it would kind of give it more of a brown black finish. I probably should have added a little bit more of the brown antiquing wax, or maybe just used the brown antiquing wax after I went through. But I was actually really, really happy with the way that this looked when it was all done. You're going to make sure that you paint both sides of this, and when you are done, you've got a gorgeous candle stand or a plant stand. I'm really, really happy with the way this turned out, and it was so, so easy to do. And now for my next project here, we're going to take these prayer stickers that I picked up from Dollar Tree in the Crafter Square section. I also had this tassel plaque that I thought was really cool. And then I picked these up from Hobby Lobby. These are just some wooden crosses. And then I'm going to be adding some colorful beads, probably some blue and some white, and definitely some of those natural beads. So the first thing we're going to do is take our tassel apart. Now this looks like that the tassel is kind of all the way through, or the beading is all the way through, but it's actually not. This is just kind of glued in here. So we are going to separate these. Of course, the beads, I'm going to put those aside and save those for another project. And then we are going to remove this part. As you can see, these are glued in. So we're going to cut these down as closely and as tightly as we can. And then I'm going to use a drill just to kind of finish drilling out those holes. I did this off camera because I was holding this in my hand and I certainly did not want it to slip, but this is basically what I did here. Now, for the kind of cloud part of that plaque, I am going to go ahead and coat this with 2 coats of my chalk paint from Home Decor. I really like working with this chalk paint and think that it's great. I like the coverage and everything. I'm going to go ahead and do both sides as well as the sides of the cloud, just making sure that this is completely white. And then when that's all done, we're going to set that aside. Now for this next part, I'm going to start threading my beads onto my twine. What I'm doing with my twine is just making sure that I have a nice kind of almost like a needle-like point here. I always add a little bit of hot glue on the end of it, and then I start stringing everything. Apologies for my hands there. They are covered in chalk paint, but I am going to fix that and resolve that really quickly. So I'm just kind of digging through my beads, trying to find the right sizes here and figure out kind of what my pattern is. Obviously, you can mix this up and create your own kind of look here. I really love working with wooden beads. I use them in a lot of my DIY projects. So for this bottom part, I didn't film the top part of the bead installation on the cloud, but I'm going to show you what I did here. First though, I have this cross and I'm going to drill a hole in it. Now I did put this in my vise here, and now I've got it drilled out and ready to go. I am going to paint this white to match with the cloud, and I just love the overall look and aesthetic of this. Again, I'm using that same Home Decor chalk paint, and I did do a couple coats of this on both sides of the cross as well as the side. You could certainly have fun with this and paint this a lot of different ways. For my twine, I did just go ahead and kind of double over the twine and thread that through kind of like so. And now for the beaded part, I've got an extra long piece of twine there, but I'm actually not going to be using all that. You can see here kind of the color combo that I went with, and I'm going to just repeat that on the lower half of this as well. And once again, just kind of digging through my hodgepodge of beads. These are my beads that are like leftover from previous projects and other things that are kind of just the hodgepodge box. This box is sometimes fun to work with, and sometimes it's not so fun to work with because I do have to kind of search through all of these. I'm probably going to figure out a better organizational system for these. So now that I've got my color combo kind of set up, I thought that it would be really neat to actually have those beads rest on a knot before they hit the top of that cross, just to give that cross some real cool definition. So I'm going to kind of feed my knot down on where I think that it would kind of fit best. And then because of the sizes of the beads, I'm actually going to double that knot just to make sure that it is a really good size
and that everything will kind of fit nicely. This was kind of something that I decided to do last minute. So for you, if you wanted to do that, then just go ahead and do that before you start threading the beads like I did. And so now that you've got your beads kind of set up, you can see really how pretty this is. And we are going to now kind of trim off some of our twine. Now, I'm doing this kind of a couple different ways, because the way that you are going to be feeding this through that hole that's in the bottom of the cloud, because remember, the hole is not all the way through that cloud. I did not have a long enough drill bit to be able to do that. And then I trimmed down the rope. Now I can make sure that it's going to fit inside of there, kind of like so. So now what I'm going to do is, again, just add some more hot glue into that hole, because remember, this is not a hole that's going all the way through. If you have a long enough drill bit, and you can do that without busting a hole in it like you saw that I did on the other side of my cloud, then by all means. And then as your glue starts to dry, it's going to kind of get a little clumpy. So I just took a wooden skewer and just kind of pushed the rest of that twine all the way through there, and made sure that it was as tight and as snug to the top of that as possible. Now, I did go ahead and just paint that one side that you may have seen where my drill bit actually did come through, and just kind of patched that up. And now we're going to take our prayer stickers. Now, these stickers are on a clear background, which actually is kind of cool. And I love the way that these are going to look. Obviously, there's a lot of different options that you can do here. And you can even trim them down a little bit if you needed to. So I want to make sure that those stickers are going to stick. And I'm going to use some Mod Podge, but I'm not going to use that brand new thing of Mod Podge, because I do have other Mod Podge. So I'm just going to take some Mod Podge and brush this on top of the clouds where the stickers are going to go. And then I'm going to add stickers on both sides of my cloud, as well as some of these embellishments, which I really liked. And when it's all done, you've got the cutest little hanging plaque. You could hang this up. You could put this on a tiered tray. I think that there's a lot of really cool and fun things that you can do with this. I also think that this would be a really cool project for Easter. For this next project, this is going to be super easy. So I had some of these stickers that were left over, and I thought that I could do something fun with this nightlight. Now, I went ahead and took this packaging off of here, or tried to wrestle the nightlight out of the packaging from Dollar Tree, because, you know, Dollar Tree packaging is always pretty strong. Now, I really loved this Bible verse of "Let your light shine," and I wanted to include this on the nightlight, but with the chapter and the verse number at the bottom there, it was a little too long, but I kind of played around with it, and then I really just wanted to have this one. So I decided to go ahead and just trim this one up a little bit. So the first thing I'm going to do is just trim it at the bottom there, and I'm going to make sure that this part fits onto the light itself. It does fit, so everything is great. And then I'm going to take the light and the Matthew stickers and just reapply those. And when it's all done, this is what it looks like during the day when it's plugged in. I love the blue light, and I love the "Let your light shine in" that is shining through so brightly on that. And at night, I really love the way this looks as well. This was a simple and very, very easy DIY. And now for this last DIY, I'm going to take this hello sign that I picked up from Dollar Tree, as well as these half round beads that I picked up on Amazon. I do have these linked in my Amazon store below, so check the description box if you want to grab some of these. I just removed that bow. It was actually really, really easy for it to come off. And now I'm going to go ahead and just remove that glue dot from there as well. We're going to not need that, and we want our beads to kind of stick as closely together as possible. Now, I did measure this out a couple times, and if you use the same size beads that I'm using, you can get everything completely all the way around. However, you will notice that when I complete my project, I did not put my beads together close enough. So keep that in mind when you are recreating this project. Now, I'm going to go ahead and just put all of my beads face down on the paper towel here. And I'm going to use my antiquing wax, and I'm just going to cover each one of these with a nice coating of my antiquing wax. And then I'm also going to rub all of that off just to make everything as consistent as possible. The great thing I love about working with wood and the antiquing wax is how the wax really kind of gets in each of the individual wood grains individually. I love the way this looks, and I really love the texture that it creates. Now, while those beads are drying, I'm going to go ahead and take my Arteza paint pen here, and this is an acrylic marker, and I am just going to paint in my hello. I really liked using the white, and I liked the transition and how it really picked up the white that was in the back of that sign. So for this Arteza pen, typically on a canvas, this actually works really, really well. For wood, you will have to do it a couple of times, but trust me, once you do this and you get the kind of final results that you will have, hopefully that made sense, you will really love the way that this looks. Now for my beads here, this is something I wanted to show you. Now you can see this part here where it's torn a little bit. That's because I did not go through and put my beads together as tightly as I should have. So now I've got 4 spaces or 3¼ spaces here that I can't really figure out with these final beads. So I am going to, I did try to remove them. That's kind of how that tear happened. So I figured rather than doing that, I would just kind of finish what I could, and then I'll use a bow. I planned on putting a bow on this anyway. So I'm going to use a bow to be able to kind of hide the top there. And then also I'm going to drill a hole in that kind of area there, that section there that is left, to be able to hang this by. So I've got some ribbon here. I've got this large buffalo check ribbon, and then I've also got this polka dot ribbon. I was going to use a different kind of ribbon, but didn't just quite have enough. And then I decided to also overlap this with some black ribbon as well. I'm going to take my ribbon here and I'm going to start doubling it up. I did end up having about, I would say about 2½ lengths worth of the individual ribbon. Now I'm just going to try to kind of overlap them and piece them together. And then I'm going to take a very simple black zip tie. And I am just going to cinch this down the middle and create my bow. Now, I cannot take credit for this idea. This was something that I actually learned from Jennifer from A Little Bit of Common Crazy. And definitely check out her channel. She has a bow tutorial that can show you in detail how she did this. And I think it's one of the greatest things in the world. So I just created my bow and then covered the center piece with another piece of ribbon, and then created my little kind of ringlets or ribbon pieces there at the bottom, and then glued it all together on top of my sign. And as you can see, when this is all done, this is how it looks. I really love the way that this turned out. I took a very simple Dollar Tree sign and made it my own. I think this looks like an expensive sign that you would see in a Hobby Lobby. And of course, you could have fun with multiple colors and ribbons to your own personal style and taste. Everybody, and for this project, we are going to be making a Ralph Lauren inspired mirror. I saw a mirror that was almost $450 that I fell in love with, but I'm going to recreate it for about $2. I have 2 mirrors here from Dollar Tree that are 2 different sizes. This belt was actually a blanket belt. It was wrapped around some blankets that some friends of mine bought. But you can pick up belts sometimes in the area where like socks are. So if you happen to see one, grab it, or just grab an old belt that you may have on hand. I cut this down to where that buckle was still going to be involved in the design, if you will, of my mirrors. And then, unfortunately, I was a little bit of a bonehead, and I glued my 2 mirrors down to the belt straps without really filming how I did it. I put the mirrors face down, I put the belt on top of it, I did add some glue and some tape to make sure that it was extra reinforced. But when it was all done, this is what it looked like, and I love this so much. It reminds me of this $450 mirror that I saw at Ralph Lauren. Again, I think this is super classy, and I really love the way this looks by my front door. And for my next project, I'm going to be using this Dollar Tree glass vase. I'm also going to be using this kind of ceramic trinket box, but I'm actually only using the lid. I grabbed this candlestick from Goodwill. It was $1.99. And then I have this wood block that I was going to use and this wood disc here. Now, the vase does not fit properly on top of the candlestick, and that will be problematic, as you can imagine. So I'm going to add that wood slice to the inside of that, and it makes the vase fit perfectly, which is great. I'm just going to take some of my hot glue, and then I'm going to glue that wood slice right to the center of that candlestick. That way I have a good base for my Dollar Tree vase to be able to sit on top of. So for this next part, I decided to switch things up a little bit. I originally started with this wood block, and I was just going to glue it to the center of this lid. I ended up not liking it when it was all done and painted. I didn't film that part, but I did paint the lid and the candlestick and everything that midnight navy color. I switched it up with this wooden ball instead. I used some antiquing wax and stained it, and then I used some of my gold paint. This will match perfectly with my next project that you'll see and with the other project that I did in my previous video. So I glued my gold ball on the center of that lid and let that set really well. And now I have options. So option one, I've got this great candlestick that I filled with some rocks and some moss, or I've got this lid that I can use to snuff out the candle, or you could even fill this with something else if you didn't want to use this as a candlestick. I really like the way this looks, and I think I'm going to be on the lookout for some other candlesticks that I can use to make a collection of these. I really love the way this looks. And for my next project, you'll see it's going to coordinate very well with my previous project. I'm going to take this Dollar Tree vase and a package of these Mardi Gras beads from Dollar Tree, and we're just going to start cutting these apart and gluing them to the vase itself. Now for my beads themselves, I'm literally just kind of figuring out where I want to place them, and then I am simply going to add some hot glue in small sections and just start gluing this all around the vase itself. It's really, really that easy. And what's great about these plastic beads is that they hold really well on the glass, especially if you're using some good quality hot glue like my Shore Bonder glue here. I just worked my way around the vase until I was happy with the design. I didn't really worry about whether it was perfectly straight or lined up. I kind of wanted more of an abstract effect, and I really love the way that this turned out. I think that you could even get away with not painting this depending on how you did the beads. I don't know. What do you guys think? I think it's kind of cool looking before I paint it. And speaking of spray paint, I did remember to film this part for you. I took my vase outside and I gave it 2 coats of my Rust-Oleum spray paint. I let it dry for a couple hours, and this is what it looks like when it's all done. I love this so much. It looks perfect on my mantle. It is a great complement to my candlestick that I made in my previous DIY. And speaking of candlesticks, this is just kind of a silly, fun DIY. I had this candlestick that was left over from a previous project. It had been spray painted black, and I just saved it after the project had kind of worn its way out, I guess. I had these very cool paper plates that I picked up at Dollar Tree as well, and I loved the design on there and thought it looked very high-end, and I decided to go ahead and turn it into a DIY project. I took my Elmer's glue stick that I grabbed at Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to add some Elmer's glue to one of the paper plates. I'm actually using 3 paper plates in total for this. So go ahead and add a very generous amount of your Elmer's to that, and then you're going to sandwich 3 of your plates together. This will help keep everything nice and tight, and it actually holds up really, really well. I'm then going to take some black chalk paint and I'm going to paint the white part or the underneath of that paper plate stack that I just glued together. I'm doing that because the black is going to give it a little bit more of a high-end look, and it's going to kind of hide the fact that I've used paper plates for this DIY. Now, after I had everything painted, I did take my heat gun out to speed up the drying process for this. I held my finger down in the center of the plates just to make sure that the paper plates did not curl up, since that paint is wet and those plates are paper. That will happen if you don't kind of help this along a little bit. And then I literally just glued my candlestick to the plates. And then on those edges, I'm just going to go through with my foam brush here and just kind of tighten up some of those edges so it doesn't look so much like a paper plate. I love the way this looks. I think it looks very high end. And if you didn't touch it, you would never know it was a paper plate. This plastic Dollar Tree mirror, and we are going to turn it into an antique looking mirror. I grabbed this one in black. It does come in a variety of colors, but you could certainly pick whatever color you wanted. The black was perfect for me and for what I was going to be doing. The first thing I'm going to do is tape off the mirror itself. I'm just using some of my painter's tape there, and I am literally just going to kind of pull it apart piece by piece and just cover up that mirror completely. Once that mirror is covered up, then I am going to start painting the mirror. For the mirror itself, I'm actually going to be using this Waverly ink chalk paint. Even though this is black and I'm painting it black again, I'm doing that because the Waverly antiquing wax is going to give me a very nice texture that I can kind of adhere other paint to. I'm really kind of building layers here. And also that plastic is a little shiny, and I want something that has a little bit more of a matte finish, which is why I'm going with this Waverly antiquing wax. So once I had everything painted on the front and the back side of that mirror, I'm going to let that dry. I'm going to help speed it up a little bit using my heat gun. Then I'm going to take my folk art gold paint here and I am going to start dabbing it on the mirror itself. I'm literally just going to be building layers of the gold paint with the black, and as you can see, I'm using that same sponge brush that I used to apply the black paint. And really what I'm doing here is just kind of giving this an aged look, almost like this is a gold-plated antique mirror that you've had for a while, that maybe was your grandmother's, and it's just going to have this really cool patina and finish to it. You're literally going to just start alternating the gold and the black back and forth until you've achieved the color that you really want. I think this is perfect. I think this is beautiful. It looks fantastic on the vanity. I could totally see this in a bathroom. You could use this very easily as a display. And I even thought about afterwards, I wish I would have grabbed an oversized comb and did the same treatment to it, because how cute and beautiful would that be on a vanity? And for project number 2, I'm going to be making a contemporary looking clock. We're going to be using some of these long Dollar Tree dowel rods. I'm also using some popsicle sticks. If you had plain ones, that's perfectly fine. I'm using the rainbow colored ones. I'm using a square wreath form and one of these round plates from this 8-pack that you can pick up in the Dollar Tree section. Now for the wreath form, I am going to go ahead and just flip that over and put that face down. For the dowel rods, you see that they are just about the perfect size for the center of the wreath form. They're a little bit long. I will end up trimming those down. But just for, for this first part, we're just going to glue these directly down to the wreath form. Originally, I was going to go with the longer dowel rods, but then I ended up trimming them down, and you'll kind of see why as we progress on. So the first thing I'm doing is just using some all-purpose glue from Surebonder, and it is holding that dowel rod and that wreath form together perfectly. I was super happy with the way that hold was adhering. And then for the crossbar, because I don't want it to have that bump in the middle and I want this to be nice and flat, I am going to take my lineman pliers here and I'm just going to snip this in half. I'm doing that, and then I'm going to glue it in place by just simply adding some hot glue onto the end of that dowel rod that I just cut, and then also onto that wreath form itself. That way everything again is nice and flat, and that crisscross is going to be kind of seamless across there. Hopefully that's making sense. Now, once I did get that done, it was time to go ahead and take the face of the clock, or what's going to support the clock mechanism, and that is that plastic plate. And then I'm just going to simply just use one of those plates. I'm going to glue it down to the center of the dowel rods, and then we are going to get ready to paint this. But before we do that, we are going to add a few other embellishments to this. You'll see that I will start to cut down the popsicle sticks to get them about the right size. And then I decided to kind of cut that center bar out of the wreath form itself, because I thought that the numbers would actually lay flat a lot better on the clock. And I'm really actually glad that I did that. Now, unfortunately, I don't know what happened to the footage. I thought it was filming when I took everything outside to spray paint it, but I clearly wasn't. The wreath form itself, you can see it's all been spray painted in black, and that includes that plate on that center part. And then for my numbers that I made with the popsicle sticks, I spray painted those a gorgeous copper color. Now for the clock mechanism, that is a clock mechanism that I've used many, many times in some other DIYs. I literally just simply hot glue this down to the back of that clock, or to the plate, really, which is, I'm kind of calling my clock face. And it works out perfectly. It's pretty easy to remove if I have to change the batteries. Luckily, I haven't had to change the batteries. You could certainly also get a small command hook and just hang it that way if you wanted to. Once everything was assembled, this is what my clock looks like, and I'm super, super happy with this. It's very contemporary and modern looking. I love that copper transition with the black. And again, I'm very, very happy with this one. For my next project, I had this wooden box that was actually left over from a kind of like a cheese and meat platter thing that I removed. It came from this company, Effective, so thank you, Effective. And I decided to go ahead and use this box as a remote box. I'm also going to be using one of these toy phones that I picked up from Dollar Tree. So the first thing I did was take the toy phone outside and just spray painted it black. I loved the little star detail that is on that, and I thought that it would really give me a cool industrial vibe for my remote control box that I'm going to be creating, that's going to sit on my coffee table to help me hide some of those things that we need to be able to watch TV. Now, while that was drying, I did go back inside and I'm grabbing this pearl wrap. This is the pearl wrap that does not have the adhesive back to it. So I am going to be adding a little bit of hot glue. And what I want to do is just kind of decorate the box up a little bit. I'm going to give it this pearl wrap trim, and just by adding a little bit of hot glue and then going all the way around the box itself and doing this on all four sides of the box. It was pretty easy to do. It's really, really flexible. It's actually easy to cut also. I do wish that I probably would have had that adhesive back pearl wrap for this instead, but the roll honestly did work fine once everything was kind of hot glued into place. Now, I did have a strip that was left, and I thought that if I trimmed this up and did like 2 double rows of the pearl wrap, then I could use that around the edge of the lid itself. So I am going to go ahead and do that. As you can see here, I'm just kind of cutting up and kind of making that one strip into 2 kind of longer strips. And then just like I did with the other pearl wrap, I'm going to go ahead and just use some hot glue and just adhere this to the lid itself. Once everything was dry with the hot glue, I then took it outside and spray painted it this really cool steel color. I wanted something that was going to be, again, super industrial. And when it was all done, I loved the way it looked, but I did want to go ahead and age it just a little bit. So I'm going to take some black chalk paint. This is that ink Waverly chalk paint that I was using in the previous project. And I'm just going to take my brush that had some leftover paint on it, and I am just going to kind of dry brush this. I did end up adding a little bit of paint to the brush itself and just kind of working it around on all of that pearl wrap, just to kind of give it that aged kind of metal look. And then I am going to go ahead and just add some of that to the sides and to the top. That way it really kind of dulls out that chrome and that kind of metallic look and really gives it this cool aged look. Again, super, super happy with this one. Love the versatility of this box. I can put tchotchkes and knickknacks and lighters for my candles, or I could put TV remotes in it. It has a lot of really cool versatility. And I love the way that toy phone works as a handle on the top of that box. And for my last project, I'm going to take one of these clear champagne buckets that you can pick up in the party section at Dollar Tree. I really love this, and I think that it's super versatile. I also had some of this twine. This particular twine bundle I picked up on Amazon. but you could use regular twine that you could find at Dollar Tree or even on Amazon. I have a link in my description box below where you can go and find some of this twine if you wanted to go ahead and get something that was a little sturdier. For the champagne bucket, I'm going to go ahead and just take this outside, and I am going to spray paint this a matte flat black. It is my signature color of the year. I seem to like this color a lot and use it often in a lot of my DIYs. Now, I think that you could very, very easily paint this white or red or navy blue or any kind of color you wanted to, and do the same exact treatment that I'm going to be doing with the twine, which you will see in just a minute. Now, when everything is dry, I did take this inside, and for the twine, I'm just going to go ahead and cut an extremely generous amount of twine off of the spool itself. I'm going to start with just kind of gluing it down on the back side, and then literally just wrapping those handles all the way around on both sides until you have this very beautiful finished piece. Now, for my particular need, I wanted something to put my K-cups in for my coffee maker, and this fits really cool within the industrial vibe that my kitchen has going on, and it is the perfect vessel for my K-cups. Now, you could very easily use this for your bathroom. You could put plants in it. I think that there's a lot of versatility with this, and I absolutely love the way this turned out. I think that this is probably one of my favorites.